Hey friends, how's it going? Today we're going to do this little box wrap tutorial that's designed for my class, my packaging design class. So this is mainly for my students, but if anybody else on the internet happens to see this, hope you enjoy and find value in it. I wanted to, right off the top, tell you the tools you need in order to create this little box wrap, and we'll get to the materials in a second. First tool, a good tool to use is an Olfa knife, or a razor X-Acto knife probably works in this case, but I like Olfa blades the best. A bone folder would be good if you have a bone folder. Use a bone folder. Some tape. I'm using blue tape for this tutorial, but you could use masking tape, probably will work fine as well. A straight edge will work good. Probably something for this box, something around this length. This is 15 inches would work pretty good. And some glue. Pretty much any glue will work. In this case, I'm using this Yes paste that we have in our classroom, so they can use that. And then a brush to put the glue on. A hard bristle brush would be best. You'll see I used this brush, which was soft, and maybe even a little wider would be better. This brush wasn't perfect. Oh, and one last piece of tooling, a little binder clip, alligator clip I like to call them. And I explain all this again throughout the tutorial, but let's get over to the actual making of the box. All right, cool. All right, for this tutorial video, you're gonna need some paper, and we're using, for this, it could be any kind of board stock. We're using fluted cardboard. It could be chipboard, works well as for the same thing. First thing we're gonna do is cut down some paper. So with our paper, so I'm making this video for my students of my class, and they have all these supplies available to them. But if you don't have something similar, you need ideally two different color papers. This is just basically the same thickness as copy paper. It just has like a little bit of color. It might be a hair thicker than copy paper, but copy paper will work as well. But you'll need a square of paper about 4 by 4 inches. We'll come back to that. That's not for a while. You need a strip of that same color. This is about 19 inches, so longer than longer than 16 inches. You want this to be longer than 16 inches. This is, the strip is 1.5 inches wide. 1.5 inches wide. This is 1.5 inches wide. And then cut yourself a square of 10 by 10 paper like this, 10 by 10. It can be smaller, but for the purposes of this demo, we're just making it a little bit bigger than what we need. You'll see by the end of the demo why it can be smaller, but just for the purposes of this demo, a sheet of 10 by 10 paper, put that aside for later. We're gonna start fluted cardboard and cut yourself one 4 by 4 inch square. Cut a 4 by 4 inch square, and what you want to make sure of is if your stock material has a machined edge that has been like pressed narrower, or it's not perfectly square. You want your machined edge. You want your edge to be perfectly square to the flat side. So if there's any kind of crease or anything on your edges, you want a clean edge. So start with a clean edge and then measure off that and make a 4 by 4 inch square. So we're going to start with that, but you also want to cut down to at least, I mean, this can happen in any form when you see we work through it, but I'm going to go ahead and say for this project, cut yourself two 1 inch strips of the fluted cardboard or chipboard, whatever you're using, and cut them at least over 8 inches long. These ones are about 9 inches long. These ones are about 9 inches long, so cut them over 8 inches long, 2 over 8 inches long. All right, the first thing we're gonna do, so once you got that, come back when you got that all cut. Okay, first thing we're gonna start with our 4 by 4 inch square. And this square, what we're gonna do with this square, we're gonna make all our measurements now off of this square. We don't really care about math at this point. The way that I'm doing this project is we're not using math anymore. Once we initially make these initial cuts, all the math, all the measurements are based off of the material itself. So here's our first example. as long as this 4x4 inch, as long as this is dead square, and it can have a little fluctuation, but this project requires this first 4x4 inch square to be perfectly 4x4 inch square. If this is not perfectly 4x4 inch square, then you're going to have to make some modifications as you go along, which one of those modifications will be marking which boards go with what boards. And you can mark on this because it's all going to be covered. So if we're starting, what we want to do is take our 1-inch strip and line it up flush with one edge right here. Maybe you could say like the back edge flush. We want it to be flush. So make sure that this is also square. You want this to be square. So if it's not, recut it. Make sure it's perfectly square. Recut it so it's perfectly square. And if it's not perfectly square, cut it flush. So, and then just press it up. Like you can use maybe your other strip as a guide. So you're pressing it straight flat up against that back edge, and then you're having the piece hang long like this. And we want to cut this to this edge of the 4x4 inch square. We want to cut basically a 4-inch by 1-inch strip, but since we're using the measurements off of our 4x4 inch square, it may not be, depending on your initial square, whatever the measurements are there. So what I do is just take my straight edge, once I got it held down here, and line that up perfectly with the edge of my 4x4 inch square. Like that, flush, hold it tight. Give good pressure downwards and pressure against your straight edge, and give yourself a cut there. So that's our first cut. And if your square is not perfectly square, then maybe you want to make some marks. Like this could be 1 and 1. So you know that that's the side that's going to be on. And you could do that all the way around. Maybe I'll do it for this purposes of this. So now that we got that one cut, we want to do the same thing on the opposite side. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So flush, make your board flush. And then use your straight edge and line it up with the edge of your 4x4 inch square. Same thing here. Good pressure against your straight edge, good downward pressure, so it cuts off perfectly square. So might as well just continue our marking. So that's 2 and that's 2. So those should be on that same side. It probably doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they rotate that way. But so now we have these two. So let's put those aside. Now we want to cut for these other sides. And what we're going to do with the other side is start the process the same way. There's a couple ways to do this. Since I'll use my short one to make that flush. Okay, we're perfectly flush there. We want to take the two that we've already cut, stack them together, because we want these two to be, we're calling, what one term to use here is board width. So using the board width. This is why we're not worrying about math, because trying to figure out the widths of these and subtract them and make perfect measurements is very difficult. So if we just measure off of our materials, it makes it a lot easier. So this next one, we're going to make basically 4 inches minus 2 board width. So there's a couple ways you can do this. You can line it up perfectly flush like it was, and then hold your board width right up against, like, you just kind of line it up with that straight edge there. And I guess a good way to do this would be to, once you got it held flush, use something to mark just the inside of the upper spot right there. So I just made one little tick mark right there. That's where I want to cut, but I don't want to rely on holding this perfectly square because it might wobble a little. So we'll just make it square. If you have like an actual square that you can put up against, I don't have an actual square, so I'm going to use my cut mat in this case, and just line up that tick mark with one of the straight edges here, and then making sure this is lined up against one of the straight edges this way, so that then I can take my straight edge, my straight edge for cutting, and line it up with one of the lines that goes vertical here, and cut it there. Alright, we did one. Okay, and so that one, the reason we did it like that is because these two are going on the outside, and then this is actually going to go in between those two, because everything's going to be on top of this board. They're all going to be on top. They're not going to be on the sides. They're going to be on top. They're going to be on top of the board. So this will be on top of the board here. This will be on top here, inside of that, and this will be on top here, inside of that one. And if we did our cuts right, it should all fit inside of that board, just right on the border. And since we got this one cut, and mine is probably pretty darn accurate and pretty darn square, I'm just going to use this to cut my second one. I'm just going to stack it right on top of my extra board here. Just going to stack it right on top of it and cut off the rest from this board. Let's see here. Little box here should work out. Alright, this should work out pretty good. It doesn't have to be laser accurate, but just as long as it's pretty darn close. Alright, so those are the two inner ones, and these are the two outer ones. So let's set aside our 4x4 inch square. Let's grab our other little 1-inch pieces, and we're going to put some tape on them, and this is how we're going to put tape on them. We're going to rip a strip of tape. I'm using blue tape because it's all going to get buried anyway, and for the purposes of this tutorial, this demo, the tape won't be seen through, and it won't cause too much of a bump underneath, because this is all going to be buried. But you might consider, depending on the material you're going to wrap your box with, you might consider different kind of tape. Yeah, it's really up to you. So let's go ahead, and what we're going to do is basically split the difference of our tape. It doesn't have to be perfectly square, it just has to be on your board. So basically it's halfway. This tape is just smaller than 1 inch, so just as long as you're kind of splitting the difference of your tape like that, hopefully that visual example is enough for you to know what's going on. So let's do that with all 4 of these pieces. Okay, now we have all 4 of them taped like this. Now we just want to clean this up a little bit before we put it on. What I like to do is, first I cut them all flush like this. Let's cut them all flush like this. Alright, so now we got them all kind of flushed like that. Now we're going to do one more cut on each of them. So what's going to happen with this one, and you can kind of see it on one that I halfway did, that blue tape there is the blue tape that we're cutting. So these are going to go, they're going to be folded and put on the inside of our box. But because right now they're all the same size and this is going to be folded up, they will cover on top of each other, and maybe we don't want that because it'll cause more thickness. So let's give ourselves a general 45-degree miter on each one of these tape pieces, so that when we tape it down, they won't overlap each other too much. If they overlap a little, it doesn't matter, but you can get more precise and mathematical if you decide to. But for the purposes of this demo, we are just going to be pretty general about it, because what we're going to do with each one of them is do the 45-degree miter, and then we're going to fold the sticky side down even with the bottom edge of this right here. This bottom edge, this should be folded 45 degrees, so just do a gentle fold. You can use your bone folder to help you make the fold, if that's helpful. You just don't want to pull too far down so it pulls away. You basically want it to be flush with this bottom edge right here. You want it to be flush with that. So let's do that with all 4 of these. Alright, now that we got all these pieces with our tape, with our 45-degree miter on them, we're going to stick them to our 4x4 inch board. If you numbered them like I did, then you can make sure you put them on the same spot. So this is 2, I have 1, this is 1, that's 2. The other ones I didn't number because I feel like mine is going to be pretty darn accurate, so I'm not worried about it. But the way to make this easy to go on to the board, instead of trying to line it up like this, just put your tape piece flat on your table and just push it right up against your 4x4 inch square, making sure that you're we're going to start with the longer lengths first. We're going to start with the longer lengths, so make sure you grab the longer lengths first. The 2 that are longest go first, so then we'll flip it completely over and do the other long side. So same thing, right to the edge, right to the edge. Use the back of your nail to get it on there. So it should be perfectly flush with the bottom of the board right there. So now we'll do the same thing with the 2 shorter sides, putting them inside of those 2 longer ones. It looks like mine are. It looks like this one's slightly too. Well, maybe not. Oh no, it's fine. I thought it was too long. Let's see. Let's double check it. Might be. I don't know. It's probably fine. It is paper and cardboard and stuff, so it has a little ability to squish if we need to. There's that one. Alright, now let's do the other side. Same thing. Put it on the inside. Make adjustments as you might need to. I think I did mine pretty darn square and flush. So now, taped on the inside like that, should be flush to the outside as much as you can make it. So now we're going to cut some little pieces of tape to go around here. Alright, my video stopped when I was showing you this strip of tape I put here. So I put a strip of tape here. I'll repeat the process. I put a piece of tape on my cut map inside of the 1-inch marks, just so that I could cut like nice little perfect 1-inch squares, like so. So I'm going to do 4 of them because that's what we're going to need. So I cut 4 of them like this, and then we're going to use these 4 squares to tape the corners of our box. But I was doing this all while it was already unrecorded, so I think we can probably just pull one off here. That's the advantage of using blue tape for tutorials, is you can pull it off without a problem. So you take your 1-inch piece of tape, and because for our project we made these 1 inches perfectly, and this tape is not perfectly 1 inch on one side, so you find the narrower side and go ahead and use the narrower side to put it on your box, and just go ahead and tape it like so. Make your way all the way around your box like that so it holds it together, and you'll be ready for the next step. So it should be, if you did all your cuts clean and nice, it should be pretty darn flush against here. Should be flush against the top all the way around. Should be flush all this way. Should be flush on the corners. So that's the advantage of working slowly and making precise cuts. Alright, so now that we got our box here, the next thing we're going to do is take our 1.5 inch strip. So it's like 1.5 inches by, this one happens to be like 19 inches long. If you have a piece of paper to do that, it's about what you'll need. If you don't have this long of paper, then you might have to makeshift and do this in sections. But if you have a piece of paper that's that long that you can use, That's great. So once you have that cut it out, making sure hopefully your 1.5 inches this way is perfect, and then hopefully it's square to the top. If it's not square to the top, make sure you line it up on your cut mat maybe and cut yourself a new square top. And I already did this, so I'm going to flip it around, and you just want to fold down the top like 1/2 inches, make it like an even fold, perfectly even as you can. It's okay if it's not 100% even, because we are working with paper, so there is a little bit of flex we can give it. So once you do that, roll it up like so, and drop it inside your box like so. And then give yourself a little clip, and with that piece that you folded, tuck it in to one of the corners really tightly, and that you can use your little alligator clip to hold it in place while you're working. So see how that's done there? I just held that corner in place. And what we're gonna do, very unscientific, but we're just gonna go ahead and use our bone folder or some pointy type of object to help us press these this rolled up piece of paper into the corners all the way around. So just be gentle as you work, making sure you're not pulling away from the first corner. You want it to be nice and tight against the first corner. And then if you kind of just gently work your way around and press the paper into each corner, and then also try to give it a crease up onto the paper that's above as well. So as you work your way around the box, you'll have a crease right in the corner where the cardboard is, and then a crease that comes up. You can straighten it out. We're going to take this out in a second, but once we get all the way around, we can take it out. Maybe, hold it. Make sure that new crease is tucked right in the corner, and work your bone folder into the next corner or something. Maybe a ballpoint or like a pen that doesn't have the pen out. You could use, or you could possibly use like the back end of a paintbrush. Maybe that's not quite pointy enough, but the bone folder is kind of pointy enough to get us what we need. So press that into the corner all the way around like so. Okay, one more or two more. I'm like pinching against the wall right here pretty tightly while I work my way around so that it doesn't slide. Alright, once we get to the end, we can move our little binder clip, do that same thing on the very last one. The last one's not as critical because we're going to cut it. Alright, so now that that's done, let's turn it around so we see the first little tab right there. Take a pen. Let's take a pen, put a little X on that, and an X on the where you started, so that when we put this back in, we put it in the same spot, just in case their measurements might not be exactly perfect. If you did a good job of doing it all square, then possibly this will all be, you could put it in any place and it would work out. But if your measurements aren't perfectly perfect somewhere, it'll be easier to put it back where it started. Alright, so let's pull it out. And once we pull it out, you can go ahead and like give those creases a little extra crease. Alright, for the last one, the very last one, that was excess. So we can cut the very last one off. Just cut it right off at that crease mark. Get rid of that one. Alright, so if we flip it up over so we can see where the X is, that's the top. So on the top, we want to leave the top, but on the bottom part, we want to measure up on the crease lines. Grab your ruler and let's measure up like 5/8 of an inch. Go up 5/8 of an inch from the bottom, and put a little tick mark next to your crease And do that on every crease. 5/8 of an inch. 5/8 of an inch. You can, might be helpful at this point as well just to go ahead and draw a line between all of those marks. I didn't do this before. This is the first time I've done this, so let's do it. We can draw a line between all of these marks. But we're also going to want to put right on the end as well. So on the very end, we want to do the same thing. Tick mark. And then we can draw a line if we want. Alright, so now at this point, we're going to take our knife and we're going to cut from the line on the crease down these little, this slot. So cut down from the tick mark, from the line down on the crease. We're going to cut like so. Like that. And then we want to fold these, flip it over, and we want to fold them in so it's like that line makes it a little helpful if it's accurate. Fold them up and in like so. Do that all the way around. This last one, the last one, you can actually cut that one off. The very last one, you can cut that one off. You don't need that one. Cut that one off. You can at this point. So what this is gonna do, we fold it like so, back into its square, and we find where our X was. Where's our X on our box? Right here. And we line up our X and our X again, and we slide it into our box like so. It doesn't matter once it's inside here. It really doesn't matter which corner is overlapping which corner. You can also do another 45-degree miter cut on each of these if you want to make it less lumpy on the bottom. But because this is the bottom of the box, we're going to put another piece covering all that eventually, and you'll probably get covered with whatever you're putting in as well. I'm not as concerned if there's a little bit of a lump on the bottom. It's on the outside that you want to make sure there's no lumps. So this is what's going on here. Eventually it'll look like this inside, so that our outer wrap will actually wrap over it as well. So having it just underneath the edge like it is right here is totally fine. That's what I wanted. This is the first time I actually did it this good. Before I had it sticking out and I had to shave off some, so this is a good one. So now our first, we get to glue. So take your glue. I have an extra piece of paper here to glue on. We're just gonna, this is an important technique to remember while gluing. We want to spread it all smoothly and evenly. We want to go ahead and cover your paper completely. And at this point your hands might get a little sticky, but make sure my hands are actually dirty because I was drawing earlier, so I might get a little bit of dirt on my white while I'm working with this, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. But go ahead and cover. Oh, see, these hairs of this brush are actually coming out while I'm doing this. So you want a stiff bristle brush. It'll be ideal for this process. Or depending on the type of glue you're using. Just the point of it, what you want to make sure at this point is your glue is spread nice and even. You don't want your glue to be lumpy. You don't want to take like Elmer's glue and do a zigzag and then glue it, because you'll see the zigzag. You want it to be all, like if you're using Elmer's glue or something that comes out in a some kind of bottle, you want to make sure you smooth it out, not leave it. We're not building like carpentry with wood and smashing it together. We're making boxes, so we need the inside to be smooth, and we don't want to see the glue. So once you got that all done like that, let's move our paper out of the way. And then this can be a little bit of a messy part, but do your best to put it back in. Find your X, line up your X. X is there, X is there. Just work yourself back in. This is a good spot to bring out your poker, your bone folder again, and help you shove it down into your box. It'll be sticky a little bit because of the glue, so just do your best to get it back into your box like so. Remember, clean hands is ideal because you're going to be touching the glue side and the clean side the entire time. So then once it's in there, like burnish it down, press it in there real good. This Yes Paste glue dries pretty fast, so depending on what kind of glue you're using, it could dry slower or faster, so give it time to dry. If it needs time to dry. Alright, that's a pretty good job. Got it in there. That's our first next step. So our next step after this is we're going to take our 10 by 10 inch piece of paper. Remember, for the purposes of this demo, this is larger than we actually need. But once you understand how to do this, you can do some different math. But the way that I do this one is just line this up basically directly in the center. It can be a little off because we do have extra to work with, but try to get it as perfectly in the center as you can. And we're going to glue the box side and stick it on the paper. So let's do that. Let's grab our brush and glue the box side. So once you got glue evenly spread across the entire bottom of the box, go ahead and grab your 10 by 10 inch square again. Take your glued box here. We're gonna try to put it as close to the center as you can. You don't need to measure, just eyeball it because we have extra space. So put it right there in the center, press it down, let it dry a little bit before we move on. Alright, once that feels like it's secure and pretty much dry, the next step, again, this is as long as our box was square and everything is good, as long as it's parallel to each other, this next step will work fine. If your box wasn't perfectly square, then you're going to have trouble at this point. But take your straight edge, and what we want to do is just press it right up against our box, like so. Maybe it'll be easier to see from this angle. And we're going to press it up against but make sure it doesn't slide underneath. We want it to press right up against the box. Mine was sliding underneath. Press it right up against the box, and then take your marking tool and draw extending lines on both sides of your, I hope you can see that. Maybe it'd be better. Maybe I'll do it in black. I'll do it in a black ink. So there, now you might be able to see that line better. And we're going to do that all the way around. So continue that process all the way around the box. Alright, once you have your marks go all the way around the box, we're going to, on two sides, two opposite sides, pick them, doesn't really matter, I'll just go, I'll draw a circle here, a circle here, because usually X means you cut things out. But on these two sides where I drew the circles, we're going to make like 1/2 inch marks a little bit wider than the lines that we drew. So let's go ahead and take our ruler and measure out 1/2 inch. Make a mark there, measure out 1/2 inch, make a mark there, and then flip it 180 degrees to that same thing. 1/2 inch right there, and 1/2 inch right here. So now there's 1/2 inch marks on two opposite sides outer of the lines we drew. Now we're going to draw a second line with our ruler between those lines. So do it maybe like this. This is where my half inch is right there. And at this point, this does not, they could be wider than half inch. It does, this is not, the math of this is not important. It's what it, the function of it is what's important. What it's gonna do. So it can be a little bit wider if you want. Once you've done this process one time and you realize, oh, I could do it wider, it could be even narrower. You just have to find the right amount so that it does the proper function. Alright, so now that's wider. So what we're going to do at this point, we want to make some cuts. We're going to cut out this piece, this piece, this piece, and this piece. And then with this 1 inch side, we're going to cut from the box just right there. So we're going to cut this line. I'll just put an X on it. X on there. X on the line. X on the line. So we're going to cut this whole section here, but we're going to keep this wing tab here. We're just going to cut this little line. So I'll demonstrate. I'll do it. I'm going to freehand cut this. If you're good with your knife, you can freehand cut. If you feel more confident using your straight edge, then go ahead and use your straight edge. Alright, now we should have something that looks like this with two pieces that have these cuts in them, like so. So they have these long, two wider and two that are just the width of the box, and two that are a half inch wider on each side. This is what we should have with little cuts like that on the wider ones. Okay, at this point we can use our bone folder to make it nice and precise, and we're going to fold up all the sides. We're just going to fold them up, make nice little folds all the way around, fold up everything all the way around, fold up all the way. Okay, we're back to the front. So now what we want to do at this point, we're going to put it up on its edge like this, and working ourselves all the way around, we're going to make a mark like with our ruler. My ruler is the type of ruler that has a little bit extra. It doesn't like end right at the inch, like the start of the ruler. There's this little extra mark. Like I said, it's not important. The math isn't important. It's the function that's important. So what we're going to do right here is we're creating this little part that folds over. So we just want enough material that it doesn't fold too far in that we're having to, it's just hitting the bottom. We're trying to keep that kind of, that color that we put inside there. So we basically, roughly a half inch should work. So I'm just going to use the half inch plus the little mark, the little extra that this ruler has. But you could probably go, if your ruler goes straight flush, go half inch. You can go any distance you want. But I'm just going to go the half inch plus the little extra that my ruler has. So making sure that I'm putting some little bit of pressure against, holding this paper down, folding it up, get a little pressure there as I'm working. And I want to make two marks because I'm going to draw a line between them. So this is the way I'm going to do it. Where's my pen? Oh, here it is. So I'm just holding it like so, putting a tick mark at the half inch mark right there. I'm going to do one right here. And then we're going to do this all the way around our box. So we just fold it over. These wings are in the way. That's okay. Just kind of shove them down for a sec. Alright. We did it all the way around. There's half inch marks all the way around. So let's go ahead. We don't have to draw a line because we just want to cut it. So we can just cut it on those half inch marks using our straight edge and our knife. You could draw a line first if you're more comfortable with that. So I'm just going to go straight into the cutting off at those half inch marks. Alright, all the way around, that's cut. So now let's fold these little tabs up over like so. Or we could do it, you could do it, nah. We just want to fold these so they're on that line. I'm going to do it on the back side. It'll be a little bit easier. The actual pen mark made a score for me, so it's a little bit easier. Okay, what these ones are going to do is they're going to go on the inside, like so. We're going to glue these down on the inside like that. So let's do it. And the way that I like to do this is I'll glue the box. I'm going to glue the box because I want to be able to manipulate this and not have extra glue sticking out where I don't need it. So let's glue the box, glue it, and then this will be glueless for a moment. So let's do that. Just on the sides, first on the sides with the extra wings. Just the wing side. Alright, now we want to glue down these tabs, so we want to glue down the little tab part. So I'm just going to put some glue on the inner box right here. And glue down the tab on both sides. Let's do both sides. Alright, once this dries a little bit, once this part of it dries, we can cut off these little extra tabs right here, 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 and here. So the way that I do that is I just use my X-Acto knife to do it, or my box knife. If it's pretty sharp, give yourself a sharp blade if you need to sharpen it up. And I just cut those off, like so. Alright, that one's done. So now let's glue up these other sides. Same thing, glue the box side. Okay, so I have found at this point, this is where we're going to wrap this inside so that it you know, it's on the inside of the box like you've seen probably a lot of times in different boxes or as you've bought them. This back part. So I just picked two sides, whatever's opposite sides, and wrap those two in first just as they are and kind of just press them in to location. So let's put some glue on these two sides and wrap them in and press them in. We'll use our bone folder a little to press them in. You're gonna like force it a little bit where the corners are, but because they're the bottom layer and these ones will go on top of it, you'll be hiding some of that forcefulness. So I don't worry about it. So or you can clean it up if you just trim a little bit off of that. It makes it a little bit easier to go in there, but I'm just gonna force it in. That's the way I'm gonna do it. So put some glue on it. Should use like something to protect your area. Alright, oops. First side, nice. You can use our bone folder on the top side. You want just kind of wrap it in there and just kind of force it, and in the corners it gets a little tight, but I'm okay with it because it's such a small amount of paper that I'm not worried about it. And then it's kind of, let's zoom in on it a little bit, or zoom in here. It's kind of, if you can see in the corner there, maybe just a hair, it's kind of covering into that side a little bit, so it's okay. I don't mind it being forced in that spot. So let's do the same thing on this side. Alright, so those two opposite sides are done. And now we're going to do these sides, and these are the sides that we're going to do a little bit more care with. So before we put any glue on it, let's fold it down nice and tight, and on both sides, fold it down. So let's zoom in here a little, hopefully we can see this. So what we're going to do in this case is we're going to basically the width, your board width, the distance between the corner, inside corner and the outside corner. You're just gonna put a little miter cut. Make sure you got a really sharp blade. I'm gonna sharpen this up. Really sharp blade. And you're gonna do just a tiny little miter cut right in that area. So it's just, I mean, you can probably barely see in the camera here, but it's just the very edge right there. Just a little tiny miter cut. We're gonna do that again right here on this side. Tiny miter cut all the way around. Tiny miter cut right there. Tiny miter cut right there. And then we'll fold it flat again like so, like this. And then we're gonna cut like a board's width. Like we're gonna find the inside of this board right here, then eyeball it straight down and cut the paper that much off, so that when it folds in just hopefully perfectly inside. So we're looking at this edge right here. Maybe this will be a good view. Right here, we go straight down and cut off the paper so when it folds in, it doesn't get squished by the board at all. Oh, I went in a little too far, but that's okay. So then when we fold it down, it should perfectly clear the board right there. It's not gonna get, the top one's getting a little squished. Let me clean that up just a hair. Okay, that should be good enough, but hopefully you get the idea. So then we're gonna do that when we fold it down. It'll be just nice and clean. It looks like I cut a little too much off of this section. So be careful of that. Do the other side. Just take a little bit off. Again, a board's width, as they say. A board's width. Just take a board's width off. Should work out. Alright, we'll fold that down. So let's glue that in place. Let's go ahead and glue those in place. Oh, looks like this one got uneven. Somehow that got too wide right there. But I think I know why that happened. Oh, actually, I don't know why that happened. The other one's all lined up. These are all pretty much lined up even. Looks like I was off with my my mark on that one. Yeah, it's okay. I'm not gonna worry about it. So now at this point, we're almost done. It's pretty clean around the outside. Pretty clean. Now we got to just put the inside in. And I cut this original piece 4 inches by 4 inches. But because we have these walls on this bottom board now, it's actually just smaller than 4 inches by 4 inches. So I don't like to do math. So I just progressively shave a little bit off until it fits in there. So we're definitely going to pull 1 board's width. I still have a piece of my old cardboard. We're definitely going to pull 1 board's width and probably 2 board's width. So let's just cut 1 board width at the first, and then on both sides, on 2 sides. That's about right. I'm pretty good at eyeballing things, so that'll still be too big. I know that because it should be 2 boards width. So we're gonna do that same process again. We're gonna do 2 boards width, and then just a tiny bit more. Yeah, 2 boards width plus a tiny bit more is what we ended up doing. 2 boards width and a tiny bit more. That looks pretty good. Alright, that should fit in there pretty nicely. They go in. It still looks a little tight to me. So I'm gonna shave down just one more little, just another little sliver off one of them. That might work out. Let's see here. That looks pretty good. That's fitting in there nicely now. So now we just want to glue that down, cover up the stuff on the bottom. Hopefully you'll remember which way this goes. Get lucky here. That looks pretty good. I don't know. That's gonna be good enough for today. Alright. Got that in there. Alright. We finished it. There's our box. Our little box. And then once you get good enough, you can make one just slightly bigger as a lid. I'm not going to do that today, but you can take this measurement, make it a board's width. So once you have your first box, you're basing it all off of your box itself. So your next box will be a board's width wider so that it can fit at least maybe a little bit more. Give it a board's width plus a little bit more so that when you build your lid, it fits on it. So there we go, little box. Let me know in the comments if you need any more assistance, but that's what we did today. Well, this ended up being a very long video, but hopefully it was helpful seeing a very thorough explanation of how to build this box. And you can use the same technique for your own box. Couple things to mention at the end here. I did notice during my process when I was showing you the miter cuts of when we wrapped it in, after you do the miter cut and you're shaving off that board's width, you don't want to start right up against the box. You want to start a board's width away, otherwise you'll cut off the miter cut that you created. So hopefully you saw that. That's why we had that one that had a little hole in it. You can't see it there. But then also another nice part about this is specifically for anybody in my class that has made it this far. One of the nice things about getting good at this technique is you can wrap a box with basically any material that you want to use with this technique, and you can use your own printing. You can design your own wrap. This is basically just printer paper. You can get better paper. You can find some really cool, unique paper that somebody designed and wrap a box with it of any size that you want. So you can get very specific about what you want the external design of your box to look like, because you can wrap it with basically any material. You'll have to make adjustments the thicker the material is. And there's also like book wrap material, which is called book cloth, is something that works really good. You could use vinyl that already has sticky on it, so you could wrap something with vinyl. And there's so many different types of vinyl textures and colors and things like that. So there's just infinite possibilities. If you get good at this technique, you can wrap your box with virtually anything you want, design your own wrap, all those kind of things. So hopefully that this was a helpful tutorial video, hour long. So check it out. All right. Thanks, my friends. Peace.